99 fumbles of pot in the vault, 99 fumbles of pot. Take one down and share and subscribe. 99 fumbles of pot in the vault. What's up, everybody? It's episode 99, y'all. We made it to 99 episodes. I'm grateful for every one of my subscribers. I can always use more, so hit the subscribe button. Share these episodes. It'll help me a lot. I'm Pej the Maniac, your host. This is episode 99, as I said. It's as of the release of this episode, we're 6 days away from Nowruz, okay? And it's going to be a different Nowruz this year, man. Some special things are happening. We got episode 100 coming out next week, the day after Nowruz, so a week from today. And it's gonna be a special one. I'll just leave it at that. And my guest today on episode 99 was involved in that episode as well. So we're going to discuss that a little bit, but we're mainly trying to get to know this man, this amazing person. I'll tell you a little bit more about him. Areon Mobasher is a media producer and creative director from North Carolina, based in Los Angeles. He is passionate about art, culture, food, and human connections. He usually does not describe himself in the third person. Areon, welcome to PHumblepodcast, my man.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start there, man. North Carolina to LA. That must have been a huge change.
Yeah, for sure. But not as much as you'd think, surprising enough. But I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina. Grew up out there, spent, the first 20-something years of my life there. Went to school not too far away in Raleigh. And so was just kind of a Southern boy my whole life, but also my parents are very Iranian. They actually met out here in LA way before I showed up. Because they know the Tehrangeles grind. They know what we've got going on here, and I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, and they were like, let's settle somewhere else. I've heard this North Carolina place is up and coming, a good place to raise kids, and so they relocated, and then I showed up, and now I'm back. So
it's full circle. I love it. I love it. You said it's similar, North Carolina to LA.
I think in the same way that, like, you can have totally different terrains and climates in like a single day's drive. Like I grew up having like ocean or like beach, city, mountains, and it's kind of the same thing here on the coast. I think it's if you're on the coast, it's the same. But it's, I don't know, just a lot of things felt familiar. Maybe it's because I was, destined to come out here, or like my parents' memories, like I kind of inherited them, and like LA felt like home when I came. But yeah, it's a great place. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, cool. What about was there any, and you can get into this as much as you feel comfortable, but was there any challenges growing up in the South? I'm assuming there wasn't that many Iranians out there.
All two of us, man.
No, I mean, that's a real thing. Like I hate to knock, that part of the country, because it is very much home to me. It's where I grew up. It's how I became who I am. And I think the South is a beautiful place, and it's more diverse than people think it is, and more open-minded than people think it is. But that being said, you growing up, you look a little different than a lot of your neighbors. Your parents have an accent, and that doesn't always fly with some people. And so I get a lot of I grew up with a lot of like, where are you from? Like, where are you from, boy? And like stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm Charlotte. I'm always a little bit of a smarty when people ask me that growing up, because I was just like, you go in defense mode, so I always learned how to like clap back in some way. But there were definitely some, like, especially growing up as a Middle Eastern boy, like after 9/11. 9/11 happened when I was in first grade, and so I kind of don't really know a world where that doesn't happen, or where like there wasn't some animosity toward Middle Eastern people as a whole. And so I got harassed, I got called a terrorist, stuff like that. But also, kids are mean. They learn stuff from their parents, and if their parents don't know that, so in my young adulthood now, I've definitely learned to like look back on those times with some grace, because there was a lot more beauty and connection than there was like struggle with that. I was lucky to have grown up around friends who were very open and perceptive to my family, my culture, and what we had to offer as well. So
man, yeah, well, I grew up in Maryland, a little bit north of you, where you grew up, and so I can completely understand and empathize with what you're saying. Number of Iranians were a little bit higher up there in Maryland, did DMV in general, but yeah, I'm assuming that made you tough growing up, like you had to.
Kind of, yeah, in some ways, yeah.
I get it. Well, let's fast forward to then. When did you move to LA?
I moved to LA summer of 2021.
Oh wow, so not that long ago. Okay.
Yeah, I'm still pretty new. So I've heard after you cross your 2-year threshold, that's when you get locked in. So I'm like almost there.
The biggest thing is, do you know where the valley ends and where it starts? Because I'm still figuring that out.
I don't. No, I
literally every time. I think maybe I brought this up to you too when we first met. But like I say I currently live in Glendale. I'm about to move to Los Feliz or Los Feliz. I don't know how people pronounce it. I try to say Los Feliz because that's the Spanish version, but also we call it Los Angeles,
which is not correct. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah. Los Angeles.
I digress. Yeah.
But yeah, like they say, oh yes, you know the valley, and I'm like, so is Glendale the valley? Are you saying Glendale's the valley? And people say Burbank's the valley, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I think the consensus is it starts like on the east side is Burbank, and then the edge of it is like West Hills or like Thousand Oaks.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What's your take?
My take is, well, I'm in Sacramento. That's my take. We have a valley up here too. No, it's not that big of a secret anymore. I'm relocating to LA myself by summertime. So
amazing.
Yeah, man.
Can't wait to see you out here, bro.
Absolutely. And I've been making frequent visits down there for some bookings, which I'm grateful for. And but yeah, I think the valley, that was, you explaining it right now, that makes sense. Up here, we have valley as well. And it goes kind of into the Bay Area, which is technically, Sacramento is not technically Bay Area. There's East Bay, and then there's just Sacramento, which is just east of all of that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, but man, it's exciting times though, man. In general, like, no secret, obviously, we're both Iranian and dealing with what's going on in Iran, and this big revolution, and the project that we were involved with, which is coming out real soon, 6 days to be exact from today, right on Nowruz. So everyone keep an eye out on that. Areon had a big part in that, and you will see his magic come to the screen real soon. So won't give any more spoilers on that. You're gonna have to wait for episode 100 to get the behind the scenes and also the video itself coming out the day before, which is on the 20th. So this is an interesting one. So you were talking to me about interdisciplinary experience. You started out wanting to be a doctor, engineer, etc., and then you eventually found your calling in the arts. So take me through that journey. How did that all transpire?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think no Iranian in the diaspora, especially kids who grew up here, no one's a stranger to, the doctor, engineer, lawyer grind set. Like I always joke like my parents, they let me be whatever I wanted to be. They gave me 3 options: doctor, engineer, or homeless.
That was
that's how mom said it, and here we are. But I'm joking, but it's that's a real mindset. Like and I totally get it. They came here under totally different stakes, and like that was the way, like a career in STEM or law or like something in that realm was the only surefire way to like make a good life. And I totally get it, and I don't disagree. But it's like, I was always a creative kid. I was always like performing or drawing. I was always like singing stuff or doing impressions, reading all the time, drawing like my own little comic books and stuff like that. When I was a little kid, I thought I wanted to be like a manga artist. Like I wanted to specifically make comics that would then be made into anime, and I'm like, yeah, this is so cool. And so fast forward all the way into high school, I got into theater and acting, and musical theater specifically. So I think we had touched on that very briefly before, but so I got into musical theater end of high school, and I got some recognition for it, and I was like, whoa, I've never felt this before. I've never like had this kind of like creative performative experience and like having a relationship with an audience. Like these were new concepts to me. Meanwhile, every week after school I would go do this like physician shadowing program at the local hospital, because I was like going to be a doctor. I'm going to go start in biochemistry. I'm going to, do this and this and this, because that's just what I got to do. But eventually, I remember I took an elective senior year. In my school, senior year science was like all electives, but it had to be science. And it was my neurobiology professor or teacher. And he told me, he was like, Areon, the arts are a jealous mistress. So you got to figure out what you really love, because you can do both, but not like in the long haul. You got to pick one. And I was like, bet. so I tried sticking in STEM like first half of college, but I was still doing theater. I was getting into photography as well, and those kind of combined into film like as I was on my way out. And so halfway through, I changed my major, and I graduated with a humanities degree, English and theater, and started working in basically freelance photo and video after that, and some other creative stuff along the way. Circling back to interdisciplinary is like kind of the core of like how I view things, because like I had this background in science and I apply it to my creative pursuits, whether it's design, photography, video, or even music.
Mm-hmm. It's well, I commend you. I need to commend you for taking that leap, because you went after it. You felt something. You felt something special. It was a calling. I call it a calling because I relate. I had a similar thing in acting, comedy, and music as a kid. I grew up with it. So singing, and we got to jam eventually. But
for sure,
yeah,
please.
Dude. Singers, man. Two Iranian singers. Hell yeah, man.
Right?
And
hell yeah.
What was your style, by the way, in singing? Like, I mean, musical you mentioned, but like on your own, did you get into any specific styles that just connected with you?
Yeah, definitely. When I started taking classical lessons, like when I was doing theater, and so that part, like classical and legit, were like the core. But then as I branched off, jazz and rock are my pocket, I would say. Other people might disagree, but
but that's where your passion lies. I get
mm-hmm.
it. I get it. Yeah, 100%. And to I love that the way you're using interdisciplinary to describe that, because it does take discipline. I mean, first of all, there's so many people from our background that that I know personally that went the route of doctor, engineer, lawyer, and many of them are happy with it, but I know a handful of them that aren't. And they're honest with me. They're like, listen, man, if I could do it again, I would pursue what I really wanted to do, which was, and I feel for them, because that's tough, right? And I think in those scenarios, parents, like how your parents were, I mean, I'm assuming they're eventually on board with you pursuing.
Yeah. They're super on board now. Yeah.
That's great. My parents, the same thing. So, but some, I feel like it does have a major impact on the decision, because it's like,
Mhm.
because I know some of the parents of these friends that I'm mentioning, they were way hardcore on like, absolutely not. You're gonna go,
Yeah.
and
Right.
you can be a violinist later or something like that. You know what I mean?
Which is, and
that's the thing. Yeah, totally. That's the thing that always kind of threw me off. I mean, I grew up, like I mentioned earlier, like we didn't have many Iranians around, but like the community that was there was tight. We all knew each other. We all knew what was happening, and I grew up around all these friends who grew up in like piano lessons or violin lessons or even guitar lessons, and it was always like, you have to be the best at this, but then you can't make that a career. You can't like go forward with that. And I'm happy to see a lot of people in our community who are able to do both. Who I know people who I know some people who are like software engineers, and then they're incredible virtuoso guitarists the rest of the time, or like musicians of some kind, and that's their life, and it's great. They're even able to make some money off of it. I think that's amazing. But some of us kind of get consumed by this need to have the artistic experience and to like give audiences something, and it's a relationship with your like client base, basically. And I think that's a very important thing for us to nurture, especially us from a culture that is so very much rooted in artistic expression and hospitality. Those kind of go hand in hand for me when it comes to like art and performance. It's like, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just how it feels to me.
It's a gift. It's a gift that we were given naturally by a higher power, and we were born with that passion, because I feel like I found my personality when I found music. And when I found music, it led me to eventually find my passion for acting and comedy. And the same way with you, it seems like music got you into photography and then film. So
yeah, absolutely.
And they're all related, by the way, because it's I lean on my musical theater experience when I'm on stage for comedy, and vice versa now, because I do a little bit of both. So,
and that's the key with the interdisciplinary thing. That's why that's such a point that I always like try to drive home, of like, everything is connected. Like, not to put on the tinfoil hat, but like, everything's connected, man. It's all one thing. They all inform each other. And there are times when I'm composing an image, like if I'm setting up the camera, I think of like when I was a graphic designer. Like, that was my first job out of college. I was a graphic designer, and I think about all the principles of design and composition and color. All of that goes into composing an image for me. And then when I'm editing, I learned pacing and things like that from music and theater, how to like really kind of make a moment shine like that. So yeah, it's all connected, and I can't unsee it. So just have to roll with it, I guess.
Well, I call all of that the third eye, right? Our gut feeling. It's like that's what spoke to you when you experienced music, and same with me. And me waking up at 33 years old, and I was just like, I got to be funny again, because I was as a kid, Yeah. And it was just like I got serious. I tried to be an adult. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, like it's,
right. Yeah.
You just gotta roll with it. Just be silly, man. Like, like life's too short.
100%. Life is way too short, bro. 100%. So, dude, that's amazing. And then it kind of ties into the final thing we want to talk about, which is the importance of art and expression. We've kind of discussed that now. So then I guess tell me, and by the way, if you have socials you want to plug, please do so.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my work account, that's my little production entity. It's Areon Media, Areon Media, and then my personal on Instagram and Twitter is at Areon Mo, AREONMO.
That's right. We gotta support artists. Support Areon, guys. He's a multi-talented person. I had the privilege of working with him last week, which is now 2 weeks ago at the time of this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, what is time?
yeah. Right. It's Tuesday right now. So
is it?
But yeah, exactly. What is time? That's a great question. That's a whole other podcast.
Right.
But amazing, man. I'm very I'm gonna say it. I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you for taking that
Thanks,
leap, because that's something, and this is not just reserved for Iranians. I have a lot of friends that are non-Iranians that are also Middle Eastern or Southeastern, and or just Asian, and they dealt with it too. And I think it comes from that idea of survival, because all of our parents collectively, they had to make that choice to leave what they knew in their country, in our case Iran, but many other nations have come to this country of United States, and they came here on a basis of survival. They had to chase freedom here, right? So they had to come here because they didn't really have it in their respective nations. And that's what we're fighting for right now in Iran, which is exactly that. And so as a result of that, what ended up with us is now we have the opportunity to pursue our dreams, right? And that's how I look at it. And I I'm sure you have too, but took some convincing my parents, like,
Totally.
it's like you guys came here for me and my sister to pursue what we wanted to pursue. Yes, in your mind you had, get an education. We did that. I got my education. You did as well. And it's like, that's important. And I always say, like, get that college degree, because it's not even about the degree itself, but it's about that experience I gained in college about finding myself, right?
Yeah. Being a person and like coming into your own and making decisions, just like our parents had to make decisions, we have to as well. And it's always applied to something different, and it's a totally different context now. But I think it's kind of our duty, just as a generation raised by a generation that went through everything they have gone through, the living memory that we are seeing the fallout of today. I think it's our duty to build on that. And I think it's absurd to think otherwise. We just have to.
You got to, because exactly, life is too short, as we mentioned already, and it's we got to go after what our third eye is telling us, our gut feeling. That's what's most important, man.
Yeah. My third eye is Adidas.
Nice. There you go. Yeah. What do you dream about all day?
Right.
That's there's so many different words they've created for that S
right
back. Oh man. All right, cool, dude. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. I know you have a busy a lot of work to be getting done. I know some of it. And one more time, your socials, and so people can follow you.
Yeah, for sure. Again, my name is Areon Mobasher. You can follow my work at Areon Media, and my personal is Areon Mo.
Follow this man. I'm Pej the Maniac. I got some shows. I'll be in Texas. I'll be coming back from Texas this coming week. I have some shows at South by Southwest. If you're in Austin area, DM me, Pej the Maniac, on Instagram and on all other social media. Subscribe to Podcast. This has been episode 99. We got a huge episode 100 coming for you next week. You don't want to miss it. I've been talking about it for a few weeks now. You're in for a treat.
Oh,
man. Areon, it's been a distinct pleasure having you on, brother. And I'm so glad that we've connected. And
likewise, man. Thank you so much.
100%. We'll be connecting in LA for sure. This has been episode 99. 100 coming at you next week. Subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.